you're struggling, you can't catch a bass, and the conditions are brutal, you just don't know what to do to find them and have a better outcome during your tournament. And I'm here to tell you there is a solution to all these things. And the dog talk may tell you, throw a big bait, throw a glide bait, throw a 6-inch mag draft, or any of those popular soft swim baits right now, or glide baits at Clear Lake. But I'm here to tell you that, all that dock talk, sometimes it will get to your head and it will take you out of your own element. And sometimes you have to go back to your confidence baits. And to me, the one confident bait that I use during the tournament, and I say this does require live scope, but some of it doesn't require live scope. You could still cover tons of water with this technique. And that's mid strolling or bottom strolling. This here won me a check over $3,000. There it is. This is the bait that won me over $3,000, and this trophy hardware right here. First place in the No Limit Native Tournament. This right here is a Crush City Mooch minnow. This is the smaller size one, and I believe it's gizzard shad. It looks like electric shad, but yeah. And then the jig head, it was one of the key tactics in my strategy in winning, and this is the CMF jig head, 1/8 ounce, with a small little bait keeper below, so that way it was easier to put this bad boy on in a straight manner. I try to get this as straight as possible. Going back to what I was saying is all that dock talk will lead you to think, hey, maybe I should throw that 6-inch, 7-inch, 10-inch swim bait. And in some cases that's true. I know Matthew Brandon, that finished 3rd place, was throwing a pretty big size soft glide bait, and he was very successful in doing that. But in terms of a no limit tournament, and I'm not saying this tactic will not catch you big fish, but if you're going for the numbers and you want to weed out the small ones and try to find size, this technique works in that case as well. And that's mid strolling. Okay, and the greatest thing about mid strolling baits, especially this bait, actually one of the few baits that really work well is this mooch minnow, because it will last you 15 fish. It'll last you 30 fish. It's made out of elastic, and don't get me wrong, I don't really like working with Elastec because, feeding it onto a hook is not really ideal compared to your Kitech plastics, your Roboworms, and etc. But I'm telling you right now, this Crush City Mooch minnow will last longer than any Kitech minnow out there, just because the Elastec holds up really, really well. And I am not sponsored by any company, so this is not a biased video at all. Just the factor that it will last through 15 fish or 14 is a big selling point. On top of that, it just catches fish. So if you're looking for a bait that will last long, catch you fish, be sure to pick yourself up some mooch minnows and CMF heads, so that way you could super glue it and start catching fish. The second reason why it helped me win this tournament the mooch minnow is the fact that it matches the hatch. I'm gonna throw up a photo of a threadfin shad from Clear Lake that one of like the 12 inchers or 10 inchers coughed up during practice. Here it is. Well, this bait matches the hatch, and a lot of people, don't remember. A lot of people need to remember that bass love threadfin shad. Yes, there's the hitch. There's many trash fish like carp and catfish that I'm pretty sure bass eat. But I'm pretty sure there's always gonna be schools of bass that are relating more towards threadfin shad, just because I believe it's one of the primary sources for a bass and food sources for a bass. So that was another reason why I threw the mooch minnow. The third reason why this bait is so effective, it's small. And to me, I really believe that bass have really, really good eyes, really, really good vision. And I remember talking to Damien Tao at the award ceremony before the awards were announced. And he was saying how fish react to, big, large baits like the Magnum trout. They would track it from the side and pass the bait up a little bit and kind of get a good glimpse of the actual swim bait, right? And then they would make a choice of whether or not they want to hit it. And they would hit it from the head, right? And my reasoning is behind the tiny bait, why it's so effective is that those fish can't get a good look at it if it's real or not. But when the bait's super big, they can get a real good look at it, or they haven't seen it that often, so that's why that bait is so effective, during those conditions and time. But the small baits, like the mooch minnow, is so tiny, it fools them over and over and over again because they just cannot get a good look at the bait. And I think that's one of the reasons why it helped me win this tournament. Now let's get into how I fish it. And I want to be 100% transparent with you guys. I use live scope on my kayak. And, it's one of the best decisions I've made because I work so hard getting to tournaments, driving 10 hours out from the lake and getting these days off and begging my girlfriend if I could go on a 3-day trip with the boys to fish the best, lake in California, period. And live scope helped me tremendously pattern these fish, learn bass behavior, and locate them faster. It doesn't mean I'll have the ultimate success, but I do got to be transparent with you guys. This is how I find fish and how I could effectively fish the mooch minnow. Now let's go into how I fish it. So when I arrived at the launch ramp, one of my buddies, Albert, was like, "Oh, there's tons of bait, tons of fish," right? So I usually drive around with my transducer always deployed. I never really take it out unless I'm going on a long run and I know the water getting to there isn't something I really want to fish. But other than that, I'd say 99% of the time it's deployed even if I'm making a long run. So I got there, put the transducer in, started scanning around with my trolling motor. And my trolling motor is not attached. My transducer is not attached. My LVS 34 is not attached to my trolling motor. So I'm not just scanning the area with my trolling motor. I have it on a stationary stick made by Fishing Specialties. And I leave it in one straight line or off to the side. So I'm only scanning the left side at a 45-degree angle. So I'm just moving around between boat slips and etc. And I see big wads of bait. And when you see bait, be sure to take out that mooch minnow, especially if there's roamers on the bottom, beneath the bait, or around the area, or suspending next to a dock near the bait. That almost gives you a key indicator that the fish around that bait is more active. And there will be a window where those bass fly through that bait and start eating, especially during this pre-spawn time. You can trick a lot of the bigger ones. So when I spotted out, the bait balls, I would look through it. I would turn my fish specialty rod and look through the big bait balls. And if I see like a bright vertical mark, kind of like my hand, and it's mixed into, a huge bait ball cloud, then I would cast out my mooch minnow, and I wouldn't see it through the bait ball because it's so thick. I would count down to the rate of fall. So I'd count 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3. Once it hit 3, I start shaking my rod, keeping my rod tip higher. And then I would, as soon as I twitch the rod and the slack is too much, I'll reel up the slack a little bit more and I'll keep on twitching. And I won't let that bait fall lower than the column of water that I'm fishing. And I'll keep on shaking it. The shaking is what causes the bait to have its little movement, and also to stay in the water column that you want to fish without reeling, because as soon as you reel your bait, that bait's gonna come up the water column. And sometimes that's ineffective, sometimes it is effective. It depends on the fish behavior at that time. And so that was how I was catching the fish on bait balls. Now, if you were to have no live scope and you had 2D or side scan, you could 2D and side scan around the area and check for bait fish. And if you know that there's bait fish around, especially boat slips, then you could take the mooch minnow and count down. Because a lot of those bass, they're not going to be on the bottom of the docks. Many of the times they like to be like 2, 3, 4 feet right underneath the floating dock. So for those that choose not to invest into live scope, or that doesn't have the means to buy live scope, if you take this mooch minnow, cast all the way to the back of the dock, and I've skipped this mooch minnow a little bit here and there. It's not the best skipping bait, but you could sure skip it a little bit. You can cast it all the way in the back of the dock, and you can count down 1 1,000, 2 1,000, and start twitching all the way back to the kayak. Slow, only reel the slack up, and start twitching all the way back to the boat. And try to keep your hand off of that reel unless you must pick up the slack. If there's too much slack where the bait's not even making its movement, right? A lot of the bass that I caught, the big ones, were hanging around those docks. So, like I said, if you don't have the means to buy live scope, you could still target these bass with the small little mooch minnow instead of the big old bait that everybody's talking about. You could target those docks with the smaller bait to trick them. Now those bigger baits, like I said, they catch big fish and they're highly effective and you can get top threes. But everything has to play out in your favor to win a tournament with those big baits. Everything has to happen right. Because you're going to lose fish off of glide baits, and sometimes they'll just follow it and never commit. And I've had numerous days like that. But am I telling you not to go and do it? No, absolutely go do it, because it's probably going to catch you, a lifetime fish, a fish of a lifetime. Another way you could fish this mooch minnow is you cast it out along a bank, and you let it hit the bottom. Right when you click the bell, and you'll see your line come down, and all of a sudden it goes slack. Pop it off a couple times, start twitching. Automatically, that bait, when you pop it, it's going to come off the bottom about 1 or 2 feet. And then as soon as you start twitching, it's going to stay in that water column on the bottom. And all those roamers that I've keyed on during the tournament were like 1 or 2 feet off the bottom. So you don't need live scope to really focus on what water column you're at, but you need to worry about how fast you're working the bait. Twitching will keep it at the water column that you want it to be on, and reeling it will raise the bait off the bottom too fast. So you don't necessarily want to drag bottom. I mean, some cases it will work. You know, every day's different, but most of the effective times that I fish this is off the bottom and twitching it, and keeping it off the bottom by 1 to 2 feet. And how you do that is you do not reel and move the bait, you twitch it to move the bait, and you only reel the slack in. So it's a very subtle finesse tactic. Okay, guys? I won $3,000, over $3,000 in this tournament. And I caught 13 fish off of the mooch minnow and 1 fish on the drop shot. If you're going to get into a flurry, and I'm not going to say that, you know, there's not a bait out there that won't, I'm not going to say that there's a bait out there that won't do the same thing. But I'm saying, you know, throughout my experiences of fishing, the most epic flurries that I've gotten with a certain bait is a mid-trolling bait. Number 1. Number 2, a drop shot. Number 3, an A-rig. And number 4, a jerkbait. But in the top 2 of those on this list is a mid-troll bait and a drop shot bait. So I'm telling you right now, the mooch minnow is the deal with the CMF jig head, 1/8 ounce. Caught 13 fish in a couple of hours. That roughly calculates to 13 fish, maybe every 10 minutes, I believe. And it was insane. And of course, they weren't just, 10 minutes and then 10 minutes hits, I catch a fish. Sometimes it was, 3-minute gap. Sometimes it was 15-minute gap. It averages about to be 10 minutes for 1 fish. And if you want to get into a flurry like that, test out the mid-troll. And then in your back pocket, when you have enough time, you can practice the drop shot. Try to get in flurries of that. And then after that, you can try the A-rig and try to get flurries in that. And after that, you can try to get in flurries with a jerkbait. So, have things in your back pocket, but just remember the things, the tried and trues that actually work throughout the years of fishing. A lot of it's going to be mid-trolling and drop shotting. Those are the 2 strategies I like to stick with, but that's besides the point. Don't always listen to the doc talk, because a lot of the times when you fish out of your style or fish things that you haven't built a confidence in, you will spin out and you'll zero for a day or catch 1 or 2. So I want to go through all the points again, why this bait helped me win over $3,000 in this tournament. Number 1, it lasts longer. I saved a lot of time. I saved a lot of money on baits. I'm a big fan of the 2.8 Kitech, and I'm still a big fan. I've caught so many fish over 7 pounds on the 2.8 Kitech in a Kitech ballhead jig, and I still have them in my boat just in case I need it. The mooch minnow just lasts longer. It's made out of elastic, and trust me, it is a hassle to put on and make it straight and etc. But once you have that dialed in, you glue it in during, practice before the tournament, and you're all set for the tournament. Number 2, it's small. It tricks them. It matches the hatch. I mean, sure, you can throw a big bait. You can match the trash fish. But one of the primary sources of bass is threadfin shad. And this tournament just proves that this bait is the deal. So I just want to share this information with you guys. And, You know, not just, hey, check me out, I catch fish, blah, blah, blah. No, I want to help you guys catch fish. I want to help you guys grow and learn how to catch these bass, because, you know, all those days that we skunked together, we always doubted ourselves. We always went like, hey, what am I doing wrong? What am I doing wrong compared to, you know, like the Garcias or the Joey Silvas or Reeds or Damian Tao? You know, what am I doing wrong? Why am I not finishing in the top 10? And I'm here to kind of share my experience with you guys, what I think, what my reasoning is to help you guys catch more fish, help you guys, you know, learn on the water, learn off the water, and kind of apply those things when you're on the water too. So if you like this channel, please subscribe. One last thing, I want to tell you my setup, and this is, you know, I'm going to make a separate video for this, so I won't go too deep into it. Like I said, I'm not sponsored by any brands. I'm only pro staffed by one brand, by Jackson Kayak. I'm not sponsored by them. Here is the setup that I use to midge troll. This is a Daiwa Aired X medium light rod, 7 foot. It's only, the great thing about it, it's only $55. So you could pick this up on Tackle Warehouse. It's not gonna break the bank. There was a couple times where I broke the tip from hitting a dock or high sticking a fish. And the good thing about it is I spent $55 more and I get a brand new one. Okay, this is P-line braid right here. It's the one with red and blue. You know, at first I was kind of skeptical about it, but it holds up. I didn't ever break the braid ever, or break it at the knot. Okay, this leader material, I believe this is 12 to 15 pounds red label fluorocarbon, and I believe red label is good enough, especially when you go up 12 to 15 pound. I did break off one fish, and I believe it was my fault. I didn't retie, and I caught already 12 or 13 fish, and my last fish I broke off. But 12 or 15 pound test is what I throw for midge trolling. Sometimes I go 6 to 8, depending on the season and how much pressure the lake is going through. But if you're at Clear Lake, if you're at a place that has a lot of standing timber and you just can't afford to lose any fish possible, I would definitely go 12 to 15 pound test. This is a CMF jig head, 1/8 ounce. Buy the Loctite super glue so that you can glue your mooch minnow on, and I think that's it. This is P-line 10 pound test. And oh, the reel, I'm not even sure what it is. It's a Regal 2500, I believe, LT. Yeah, Regal 2500 LT. Like I said, I'm not here to sell you anything. These are just proven to work. I'm not sponsored. This is a budget setup, and I have no plans on upgrading this setup ever, unless some brand comes over here and says, hey, you know, we're giving you product or something like that, which I don't anticipate anytime soon. So yeah, this is your affordable. So affordable reel, I'd say no more. You're spending $130 on combined combos, and you should be all set. Good luck out there. Go catch some fish. Keep things positive. You know, I mean, what can you complain about when you catch fish? And when you're learning new things on the water. Anyways, take care. Peace.